I was elected overwhelmingly, let me say that,
Right.
the first instance. Then last year in February, I ran for the second term, and again I was re-elected overwhelmingly again. I've been a council member for about in total about 7 years now.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So growing up, this is always what you wanted to do? Become a lawyer?
Well, of course, initially I dreamed to be a pilot.
Then what happened to that?
I didn't get an opportunity, at least. I think when I finished my sixth form, that time we had sixth form. When I cleared my sixth form, I scored highly on social sciences, which then meant that probably I would fit into the law profession other than the sciences.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Were you in debate club? Some of those lawyers, you say, so you were in debate?
Yes, of course. Yes, I was in debate. I was actually head of our debating team in my high school. Yes.
Okay. So is Mutua married, kids?
Yes, married, 2 kids.
Okay.
Yes.
And so far, what has been the most amazing high point in your career?
I would say amazing, probably I could say is if I was to say amazing, I would say probably a situation where you are called upon to criticize someone who is related to you in position. I don't want to disclose a lot, but I think is amazing in that at times, because of my position in our fraternity, I'm called upon to say words which you can say criticize another person in position who is related to you.
Okay.
Yes.
So if that comes easy for you, because if it's a high point, it means it's an easy thing you find to do?
Yeah, well, is easy in that we agree that this is a profession, and I'm doing my job, you're doing your job. Yes, yes.
What about the lowest point you'd say so far? One of those that maybe made you think, and it's a hard question, that made you think, you know, what is this I'm doing? Maybe it's time to call it a day. Maybe it was wrong decision to even get into all this in the first place.
Well, it's just the latest occurrence where, although this is a matter which is in court, but I would mention this without details, that where despite majority of members expressing their desire.
And by members you mean here lawyers?
Yes, lawyers, members of the Law Society of Kenya.
Correct.
Despite the fact that majority expressed their desire to construct what we are calling the LSK International Arbitration Center. And despite the fact that it is a very good idea in terms of trying to clear the backlogs in court, certain persons criticize you and say that no, this is not a good idea. It has a personal interest in it, and it's a bad idea. When that happens and you get attacked in that manner, especially in the social media, sometimes you really start thinking whether was this the right thing to do, to be a leader in the society.
Yeah.
It's quite
it's tasking.
It is, yes.
It doesn't come easy.
Yes, it doesn't.
Okay, and definitely that's one of the things we'll talk about. The arbitration center, as you mentioned, it is a matter in court.
Yes.
But there have been quite a number of allegations that have come through,
yes.
linking also contributions to members practicing license. That has been an issue of contention. So at some point we'll get to that. And we just want to also welcome you. We have our phone numbers that will be scrolling on your screen. I think they will be up shortly. You can engage with the LSK chair directly as we go along with this live interview. So let's begin with yesterday and what happened, sir. In as far as the Langata Primary School, you later gave a statement indicating that you'd set up already an 11 team of lawyers that will go after this matter. Talk to us about exactly what you see this team doing, because yesterday we also saw the acting IG coming out to suspend, interdict the officer that was in charge of the operation.
Yes, we've been observing what has been going on in that primary school, Langata Primary School.
Right.
And one of the realization is that it appears that whoever has alienated that land, whoever has, let me use the word grabbed, whoever has grabbed that land seems to be a person in authority or in position. Or
why do you say that?
Because it takes a lot of influence, politically, financial, for you to step into a public primary school in a city like Nairobi and erect or construct a wall, irrespective of what the public thinks. And it takes a lot of influence for you, despite the fact that the National Land Commission and the Minister of Lands have all made declarations that this parcel of land belongs to the primary school, and you still maintain your ground and nothing happens to you,
right,
in terms of being arrested, being prosecuted. So we realize that we need now to step in and assist the school and the children,
right,
in trying to first make sure that the persons who are responsible for those actions in terms of throwing tear gas at the children, to have those persons identified, and after being identified, to have them either disciplined through the independent oversight authority,
yes,
or prosecuted through the office of the DPP, or both actions being taken. So that is one.
Yeah, that is one. Okay.
Then secondly, we also need to start advocating for the property to revert to the school. Yes.
But isn't it already in the school's name? Hasn't that already been clarified?
Well, what has happened is that there have been statements issued to the effect that the school has no title to the property. But according to letters of allocation, it appears that the property was allocated to the school. However, someone has a title to the same property. So there must be a process where the title is cancelled, and after being cancelled, it reverts back to the school.
So why is LSK intervening now after we've seen all of this chaos? Because one would argue that perhaps knowing all of these issues and the facts around this matter, you'd have come in before to avert such a situation.
No, we wouldn't have come in before, because remember when that issue of the wall having been erected came up in December, the National Land Commission stepped in, and we could see in the news that the chairperson at one point was in the school and saying they were investigating. They were still going on with the investigations. The point of entry for LSK is when now there is brutality on the children, when rights of the children have been affected as a result of the action by the police. That is when the law side now steps in. Steps in. Yes.
And let's talk about those particular events yesterday. So then would you say, because this matter then was still fluid, it was under investigation, it was the matters were being looked into in as far as what is going wrong and what was happening. So do you think it was right and good taste for the protesters who organized this to have done it in the first place?
Let me tell you, it is, as I said, some things are done through protests, through demonstrations, through expressing displeasure with certain actions. As I said, I do not understand, and everybody fails to understand why, in a situation where the government itself, through the National Land Commission, through the Cabinet Secretary, Minister of Lands, where they have already declared that the land belongs to the primary school, yet we are not seeing anyone being charged in court as a result of alienating that land. It therefore tells you that until there's pressure, until there are protests, until people picket, then it means that this person may not be prosecuted. Look, I'm seeing a situation where the National Land Commission has said that the documents which were used to allocate that land to the private developer were forged documents. When this pronouncement is made, then the next step you'd expect is that for any member of the public...
But perhaps those processes were still ongoing.
Well, but I don't. Well, it could be true that they were going, but they're ongoing. But we've not been told what progress.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes one can make pronouncements, and that's the end of it. So, to answer your question,
right.
In view of those circumstances, there was justification for members of the public. There was justification for the children to protest the fact that the land has been taken from them and nothing is being done.
Yeah,
yes.
I think across the board it is agreed that it was completely out of order for the kids to have been tear gassed, the pupils.
Yes.
However, one side of the argument has come in, and one quarter of this has come in and said that the activist used the children. Did you get that sense that perhaps this would have happened without having the children and using them as human shields? We've had some quarters argue.
I don't think that is just persons who are arguing for the sake of probably either defending the action by the police or defending the action by the developer.
Okay.
I say this because although I do not have adequate details,
correct,
but from what I've read and what I witnessed on TV, there appears to have been one group of activists who are saying that, who are protesting and saying this is public land. Then suddenly school children with twigs appeared and joined the demonstration, which is lawful. Therefore, when the police were confronted by that kind of a scenario, they ought to have immediately realized that in the midst of these protesters, in the midst of the public, they are children. And the procedure, the laws from the Constitution, from international conventions, the manner in which you handle a situation where there's a child, the best interest of the child must be taken into consideration.
Okay.
It is not in the best interest of the child to lob a tear gas canister. Yes, yes.
All right. So, as I mentioned, of course, everyone now knows the officer that was overseeing this operation, the OSPD, was interdicted.
Yes.
But now, with your 11 lawyers that has been set up to go and pursue this matter. So, for you, that does not suffice that has happened. So, you're going after each and every officer that was involved in this operation, or what exactly are you looking?
As I said earlier on. Sometimes this is the reality that when the police are investigating the police, there is likely to be some cover-up.
Okay.
And we therefore wanted to have independent statements taken, which we can be able to present to the office of the DPP. We needed to have independent evidence gathered, which can be taken to the oversight authority for purposes of discipline. Therefore, as much as I know there is a suspension which has occurred, but what will step in is the process of trying to investigate, and in the process, a lot can be lost in the translation.
Okay.
Therefore, we need, if that happens, to have some evidence which can say, no, look at what we gathered, and this is evidence. That is why we've decided that it is critical that we send our team of lawyers to at least gather the appropriate information and the evidence.
Okay.
Yes.
And we'll definitely continue to follow that story and see what will be emerging from your investigations. Your team as well will be looking to see. But let's talk about another story that LSK has been very much involved in. This is as far as hate speech matters are concerned, the issue concerning the Honorable Member of Parliament Moses Kuria.
Yes.
And talk to us about the choice to have decided to go the ADR way, alternative dispute resolution, because when that is put against the question and the matter of Wadi, many have criticized and said that double standards were being applied, that in Wadi's case, you know, as much as he don't have legal representation, pled guilty, now in custody. In the matter of Moses Kuria, told to apologize. I don't know if that has happened yet, because recently we saw NCIC pull out, saying that he does not appear even to be remorseful after he was told to issue this public apologies.
Yes, I can say from the outset that those sentiments are not out of place. It is true that when one looks at the situation of the student,
yes,
Wadi, I believe, isn't it?
Yes.
When one looks at that student, Wadi's case and the one for Honorable Moses Kuria, there's a feeling that those are double standards. But without defending the situation of Moses Kuria, I would want to point out.
And what are the double standards exactly according to you, just to clarify?
The double standards is this that one, although the law on hate speech
yes,
was majorly enacted to ward off or to prevent persons in authority, persons who have the capacity to influence others as a result of their words, as a result of their action. It appears that over time, the politicians who have been charged with hate speech
yes,
seem to have negotiated their way out of the court cases. Yet, when it comes to an ordinary person like Wadi, he seems to have been sentenced to 5 years imprisonment.
Yeah, is it 2 years? I think 2 years.
2 years, sorry, 2 years imprisonment. That's looked at from the face value. One would probably want to conclude that those are double standards.
Correct.
But I wanted to explain that when you go into the details of the two cases, you will find some distinction. Distinction in that whereas this other case for Honorable Moses Kuria is ongoing, where the prosecution must prove that those words actually amount to hate speech. In the other case, there was no opportunity for the student to be judged whether he was guilty or not, or whether the words amounted to hate speech, because he said, I'm guilty, or I'm guilty and I did this, and then the magistrate had no choice other than to sentence. Although, of course, there was a choice of giving an uncustodial sentence. That aside, let me come to the real issue of Kuria. There's a misconception that LSK has decided to either
let him go easy.
No, that is a misconception. First and foremost, the process for mediation, the process for withdrawing charges is commenced by the commission, not LSK. It is Ole Kaparo's commission, which triggers in the process of reconciliation. It is the one which said, in this situation, could we then have a reconciliation? And in a case of this nature, it is not LSK which is a complainant. What LSK did is to say, we have looked at this posting on Facebook by this citizen.
Right.
And in our view, this is a very dangerous trend and this ought to be prosecuted. And the office of the DPP agreed with the LSK and wrote to the commission and told the commission, you need to investigate this with a view to prosecution. That is how Honorable Moses Kuria ended up in court. And when the commission commenced the discussion, we said we need to look at the terms of the reconciliation. And as we were looking at the terms of reconciliation, that is when there was another posting by Honorable Moses Kuria, and then that is when the commission said, no, it thinks that there's no good faith in what we are doing, and therefore you are suspending. That is where they are able to either proceed with it or suspend unilaterally.
Okay.
Yes.
So what do you think of their suspension? Because you had moved to, request the DPP to start this investigation because you had concerns over his postings.
Yes.
You still have concerns with the process having come this far, because clearly NCIC withdrawing because they feel even after their attempts to, ADR, this is not getting resolved. He does not appear to be remorseful. Those public apologies yet to be seen. Do you get the same sense that this is a person that's an apologetic? I
think NCIC was right that indeed this matter ought to be prosecuted to conclusion. Because it is one thing to say that you're apologetic, and second thing to be sincere that indeed you are apologetic to what transpired or to the post that you made, especially given the fact that a day or two after the public apology, another post was done on his wall. Yes.
All right. So another issue that we were supposed actually to have him today in studio, but I understand he's been taken away to safe custody for security reasons. He says the blogger Mutai.
Which Mutai?
Mutai.
I have not been following, sorry.
Oh, you have not? There's a blogger who was arrested.
In Mombasa?
In Mombasa, yes, that one, and later released. And of course, some of the charges there, it was widely believed that some of them was because of the posts he'd put up on his blogs and on Twitter, alleging corruption in Isiolo County, linking the First family as well to poaching and all. And the question now of dissenting voices being seen to be clamped on has come to fore, and the laws that govern this, that look into this as well, as some saying perhaps are not very stringent, are not very clear. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there will be need first to be able to prosecute certain matters to conclusion, so that we can establish jurisprudence as to what is the extent to which such social media postings infringe on the law, and the court will be able to balance between the free speech and committing an offense. That has not happened in Kenya because of very few of those cases have gone to trial. I know the office of the DPP is in their final stages of drafting a law to take to Parliament on that area. But I think it's a question of the prosecution looking at what words were used and determining whether, in their view, that would be free speech, or it is part of the freedom of expression, or it is committing an offense. So why we are in this kind of a scenario is because we've not seen those cases prosecuted to conclusion, where the test as to whether that amounts to an offense or is protected under the Constitution is tested.
Okay.
Yes.
As the LSK chair, because some of the concerns, there was a Free Mutai hashtag that was running after on social media after he was arrested. Those that have felt that it's a all-out, effort to clamp down on this dissent by the government, because on the case of Wadi, it was allegations that, he was touching on the character of the president. Even for this particular one, Mutai, it was said some of his posts linking the First family to poaching, the Isiolo County government and all that. And that now county governments, because they were the complainants, being seen to be borrowing a leaf from the national government, that they are seen not to allow these voices of dissent. If they seem not to agree or not towing the line, then, you want to get them off the scene, or at least discipline them, if you like. Do you get that sense from the Law Society of Kenya's point of view, that there is that effort from government?
Well, what I can say is that the government ought to be cautious when it is following up to prosecute persons who express themselves on social media. That there's no doubt about it, because it's a healthy debate. It helps in checking any excesses of power by either the national or the county government. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, there is need to also send messages to persons who are hell-bent on probably using that platform to commit offenses, or using that platform for purposes of abusing others. So, as I say, is a delicate balance. But since under the Constitution.
And who decides how you balance it out? Because I think that's where the problem comes, because when it appears to be there is no law perhaps that's clear, because the law should in essence be doing the balancing, not then the police, not the government, not the accused or the accusers, because then each could be biased.
As I said, the balancing ought to be done through a court determination.
Okay.
It is only courts of law which are authorized under the Constitution.
But are those courts of laws, do they have sufficient laws to work with? Because they'll only work with the laws they have.
The law is not
so there is not a problem
it's
in
not
your view.
clear as such.
Okay.
But the courts can be able to use the Constitution to interpret whether or not that action is protected under the Constitution.
Okay, we have a call online. Is Eric? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead with your contribution. Yes? Yes, endelea ndugu.
Alfred Mutua, habari yake?
Salama.
Eric Mutua.
LSK ni ya watu gani?
Nani?
LSK inawakilisha watu gani?
Anaitwa Law Society of Kenya, ni chama cha wanasheria.
Inawakilisha watu gani?
Inawakilisha wanachama na pia wananchi kijumla.
Swali ya pili, LSK tangu inakuwa na makesi kotini na tujaye kuona kazi yake ikifanyika mzuri. Tujui inafanya kazi gani kwa hizo makesi yao. Wanataka kesi kotini na hakuna kitu kinakuja out kuonyesha kwamba kesi imefaulu. For example, imekuwa juzi shamba hakuna kitu wamefanya. Kuna siku walipeleka law kesi zingine kotini za record imepitisha. Hawajakuja ripoti kamili waambia wananchi tumefaulu kesi ipi kazi itafanya kazi. Sasa tunachangaa LSK ni siasa ama ni ya matajiri?
Una siku
ya pili.
Ngoja, Eric, we need you to take it slow. Just clarify on your other question briefly. What's the question? The chairman did not get it.
Namuuliza LSK wameshapeleka kesi mingi sana kotini. Na hakuna kesi yote wamekuja nao nje ametuambia tumefaulu kesi fulani.
Okay.
Ya pili.
Na ya mwisho?
Kuna mtu mwingine, kijana mwingine wa university alikuwa juzi. Ndio kuandika kwa kitu mbaya. Hali MP aliandika zake mbaya mpaka sasa hivi ako nje. Na raia mdogo ndio wanafinyilia, na huyo mkubwa anamwachilia. Na tunasema tuko na Law Society of Kenya. Kwa hiyo wakilisha wakubwa na watu wadogo.
Alright, asante sana Eric kwa kupiga simu na kwa maswali yako.
Talk in English.
All right, before you answer those questions, let's take Mohammed. Understand has also been on the line. Mohammed, good morning. Briefly, your contribution.
Fia, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for calling.
Good morning to the chair of the LSK.
Good morning too.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to first thank you for having the second chance, because I know, according to your history, maybe you are the first or to get the chance for the second time. And there are questions that I want to put to you. One is that people have decided to go to the social media because of the magnificence, because of the corruption that is rampant in our institution. So they are defenseless, and the only place where they can post this is in social media. What are you doing as a society to ensure that those people who are the voiceless, who represent their problems there, are defended? The second question is about delaying of cases. You find that there are so many cases where there are a lot of delays, even cases taking 1 year, which I think it requires less time to rule. And then the other issue is about the pro bono. I'm not a lawyer, but I understand there are so many poor people around who, even with issues of land grabbing and the rest, when I'm the mighty and a bigger person, the fat cat goes to court and he wants to grab my plot, the Constitution allows him to go there. What are you doing? What measures are you doing to ensure that the pro bonos are there in counties like maybe Isiolo, where most of the people are poor and they don't know their rights.
Okay, all right, sir. Mohammed, I will stop you there because you've asked 4 questions. We need to proceed. Let's come back to the chairman. Thank you for your call, Mohammed. Quite a number of issues there.
Yeah.
Surely we cannot continue with that call, but let's begin with what Eric had to say. Matters in court that are never concluded that LSK will take to court. I think there was one more question there.